I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders help it grow. Thank you to this week's sponsor, America West. Chuck Evans, president of Capital Growth Solutions and founder of the revised America West Conference in June in Costa Mesa, California. Chuck, why do you want your lenders to bring their staff to your event?
Our conference is going to be a little different than the other regional conferences that have been out there that are very, very good. We're going to focus on education. These are going to be 18 classes, 90 minutes each, with 2 or 3 instructors or facilitators in each class. The price points where we're focusing on lenders that are doing maybe 6-7 loans a year or getting into SBA lending, want to build out a department. There's lots of questions that we hear when we talk to these lenders that this kind of information isn't necessarily discussed at some of the other venues like NAGL and the district offices. So we're going to focus on some of the areas that the questions that you have in starting departments are growing from 6 loans to 16 loans a year.
And you have the buy-in from SBA. You have a great,
absolutely,
a lot of peer professional. Yes. So that's great. See you all in June in Costa Mesa.
Thank you very much, Bob. See you then.
Here's this week's top story. Last week, the House Small Business Committee held an oversight hearing about SBA's administration and funding of 7(a) poultry loans. This has been a very contentious issue. Inspector General reports have been flying all over the place. At last week's hearing, Nydia Velasquez questioned SBA's oversight and management of the program. Here's some pretty sharp questioning about credit elsewhere.
Can you tell me, Mr. Manger, what reasons are typically cited by lenders to fulfill the credit elsewhere test to make these loans?
So I would have to get back to you to see exactly.
Well, this is an important issue.
Absolutely.
Because it determines whether or not you are following the law. If you cannot answer this question, how could you tell me that those loans were...
Ma'am, I can tell you that we take the credit elsewhere standards extremely, extremely seriously.
But you cannot
in my
answer.
office.
You cannot give.
I cannot give you some
provide.
of the specific examples of what the reasons were.
Okay.
That was pretty rough stuff, but it goes both ways. Listen to Congressman Luetkemeyer out of Missouri questioning the SBA Inspector General. I love the name, Hannibal, but he goes by Mike Ware. Listen to this exchange.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would seem to me that the discussion today centers around the difference between a franchise and an affiliate. Mr. Ware, can you explain to me why, at the very essence here, what your definition of affiliate is and why you believe that these farms don't comply?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So we don't. The OIG doesn't have a problem necessarily with the relationship between a franchisor and a franchisee, as long as the contracts are not controlling by the franchisor. So,
what's your definition of controlling? I mean, because every franchise controls its franchisee to a certain extent. I mean, it depends on whether you're talking about an auto dealer or you're talking about McDonald's or you're talking about Cargill or Tyson. Those folks all have control over the people that are doing business.
Correct, sir. However, then if the control is comprehensive by rule and by the law, it is so comprehensive that it.
Well, what's your definition of comprehensive?
Comprehensive means it. So it's not every franchise that would qualify for a small business administration loan. My definition.
Do you make loans to McDonald's? Do you make loans to car dealerships?
I am not certain exactly who the SBA makes
Manger,
loans.
Do you make loans to car dealers and McDonald's franchise folks?
We have just started making loans available to car dealerships because we have reviewed.
How controlling? Does anybody know the business model of a car dealership? There is nobody that is controlled more than a car dealership by their company.
Well, then I would suggest that from our vantage point, based on our review on poultry loans, right, that if that is controlling to the point where even the very specifications of your broiler house is controlled, when you can walk into your broiler house is controlled, where you can walk in your broiler house is controlled, when the chicks are fed, when they're given medicine is controlled. And if you don't adhere to anything, you can lose your flock placement, you can lose your flock, and that automatically will cause you to default. That's controlling.
Mr. Ware, you're talking to somebody who's got millions of turkeys grown in his district.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And the reason that they do that is because those birds are not owned by the individual.
Correct.
Those birds are owned by the company that puts them in there. And they require certain things, just like if you were building a building. If you're the contractor, the owner says, I want this building built a certain way. I need these kinds of materials, and I want it built a certain way. And we have the architect to make sure that it stays there. These buildings and these birds are there's a model, a business model that they want you to, just like any of the franchises, with McDonald's or whether it's a Ford dealership. There's a certain level of integration of all of the different requirements that the franchise wants you to, as a franchisee, to put into your business model. The thing that concerns me here is you're forgetting about the rest of this business model. The rest of the business, these people don't raise just turkeys and chickens. They also normally have a cattle operation affiliated with this because they normally have enough land to spread the manure out, which is a commodity that's it's a really inexpensive way to fertilize your farm, and they will have an integrated cattle operation as well. So, and that's usually financed separately from this. And so to answer the ranking member's question a while ago, the reason that these farmers come to the SBA for this is usually they're pretty highly leveraged. They're trying to get a new building, buy a new farm next to them, and they can't get this financing because of the amount of debt they're incurring because of the size of these buildings, which are several hundred feet long. So I'm trying to figure out here how you can get to this affiliated definition whenever you've got so many other businesses out here that are franchise operations that are much more controlled by the franchise company than what these folks are, because I know this model.
Can I answer?
You absolutely. I'm looking forward to your answer, sir.
We don't have an issue with any of those things. What we have an issue with is that they, by definition, by the code, by the CFR, they are not considered small. So from our
okay, what's your definition of small then?
Well, the CFR in particular concerning this with affiliation, again, goes back to such comprehensive control that management agreements is the exact term that's used in there. When the management
they don't control the entire operation, though, Mr. Ware. That's what I'm trying to get at you. They control only the poultry part of this operation. And the operation may be several hundred acres with several hundred head of cattle on it.
But that's not what the Small Business Administration would be putting their guarantee for.
They're guaranteeing the
chicken,
land and the poultry buildings that are on there. You're the real estate and buildings. You're not guaranteeing the operation. The operation is completely different.
But Congressman, when these same contracts that they are guaranteed, when the flock placement isn't right and their flock placement goes away, so does the loan. And here comes the guarantee.
Mr. Ware, if I've got a car dealership and I'm not meeting my quotas, you know what happens? I lose my franchise. Yeah. I've got to sell X number of units per month. Otherwise, at the end of the month, I'm going to get a few more from the company. So now you've got another 30 days to sell all those on top of everywhere else.
But I'm not sure your car dealership qualifies as a small business.
Mr. Mayor said, well, they're starting to do that now.
And we would like to take a look at that.
I can go through a whole list of franchise companies.
Yeah.
And we can talk about this all day. But my concern is that I think we're losing we're nitpicking here on this affiliate definition. I'm not sure you really understand the business model of what a poultry farmer really is all about.
I do understand the business model pretty well. I do understand it, and I'm saying that business model makes it affiliative by nature.
Back to Velasquez. Listen to this exchange between SBA associate Bill Manger and herself about affiliation.
Mr. Manger, I heard when you talk about some of the changes about excess land, equity injection, those issues has nothing to do with the affiliation issue. So I know that you were not there in July 16 when the IG presented its report. But I just would like to ask you, who signed off into the changes that were made, particularly knocking out the economic dependence or business contract affiliation? Who did that?
That was done by the previous administration. I'm not sure if it was signed off by the person that had the associate administrator position in capital access. Or
can you get back to us?
Yes, or possibly the administrator at the time.
Well, if those changes were made, and I would like to know who signed off into accepting those changes, because this is a very important issue, the issue of affiliation. And if I have to introduce legislation to go to the original affiliation issue, I'm going to do that. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I hope you enjoyed those clips. I'm a political nerd. I love watching the exchanges. Stat nerd as well. You know my stuff that you read. Hey, switching gears. Harvest Small Business Finance is a new SBA lender on the block. They've been around for 2 years. They acquired the old Mark Feathers license of Small Business Capital of Santa Clara. Look, the numbers are amazing. I believe they're number 13th on the list for 6 months, ending March 31st. Listen to the exchange I had with co-founder and loan originator in charge, Adam Siri. We're in Irvine. Adam Siri, the original Siri, not the Apple Siri. Yep. The co-founder and in-charge loan origination for Harvest Small Business Finance. We're at his office in Irvine. Adam, welcome.
Thank you very much.
36 months in business. You bought a 7A license. You're one of the 14. And now you're top 10 lender, SBA 7A?
We're almost there.
Tell us about that. Take us from the beginning to the journey, because I'd always love these. You're a startup small business company. Tell us what happened.
So we actually bought the SBLC just 24 months ago. We closed on the license. We've been in production for 24 months now. We've done a little over $3 million in total aggregation over that period of time as an SBA 7A lender. We have kind of a niche product. We're a little bit different than most 7A lenders out there as we choose to focus on commercial real estate, owner, user, office, industrial, retail across the country. And so we've taken a big group of guys from C&L Commercial Finance that got sold to Lehman Brothers Small Business Finance that eventually turned into Plaza Bank here locally, and we've been able to kind of encapsulate all those employees and those BDOs, and now we have 30 BDOs across the country, and we're up to 69 employees. 69, wow, that's amazing. Now, your market, you and I talked about this before we started this, because you're a B credit lender. And this is from your website, so I'm not making this stuff up. Harvest fills the void created by traditional bank and finance companies. What does that mean? What that means is we take on storied credits. You're selling. I'm sorry, what? Storied credits. Storied credits. Yeah. So when you're taking on adjustable loans tied to prime, that's typically a B type of product. The borrowers have the ability to go get either a 504 high leverage loan with fixed traditional financing or conventional financing through the bank. They would go that route. Mm-hmm. So these are borrowers that have either lower FICO scores, have up or down cash flow, maybe just started a business or looking to expand, and we give them we basically give them the financing power in order to do that. So when SBA is talking about credit elsewhere, it's in every meaning of the word. We are it. Yeah, it's easy for us to check that box, because these are typically borrowers that have been declined by your traditional banks and under conventional financing terms. 2018, what are the numbers going to look like? We're looking to, I apologize, 2019. Yeah, fiscal year 19. Our goal is $300 million this year. Okay. We feel like we can do it. We feel like we've got enough pipeline and the BDO power across the country in order to hit those numbers. And really, it's just making sure that we continue to make good loans, source our clients, and serve the community. Adam, what is this? This is the Harvest Wall, and this is the Harvest Funding Bell. So whenever we fund a SBA 7A loan, one of the funders comes in and they ring the bell, let everybody know that the loan's been funded. I love it. Adam Siri, thank you very much. Thanks. Appreciate it. Finally, I want to conclude this week's podcast about a new Harvest Commercial Capital offering. Harvest Commercial Capital is with Harvest Small Business Finance. Adam Siri continued this conversation. Look, secondary markets are strong, need to be strong for a strong Main Street. We need to have that. The SBA 504 secondary market has been lagging since the Great Recession. Listen to this new product to purchase those SBA 504 first liens from Harvest Commercial Capital for the SBA 504 secondary market. Continuing the conversation with Adam Siri, you have a new product for the SBA 504 loan program. Little history, it's been 11 years since we've had truly a national lender with that secondary market. What is your strategy? What is the product? Yeah, we're excited about it. We just released it yesterday. It's called Harvest Commercial Capital, and really it's through our fund, Medalist Partners LP, we've been able to secure long-term capital to not only underwrite, fund, and service, but also hold long-term to securitize eventually. Now you're calling this product for value
value-added, earlier conversation, B credits. Tell me about that. What is the market that you are attracting?
We are attracting kind of the underserved market for 504 loans and also small balance commercial loans. So again, these are borrowers that can't get financing from traditional banks conventionally, or maybe through the 504 product, might have some storied credits, history, blogs, things that are up and down cash flow or projected revenues, projected cash flows. Those are all storied credits that we're looking to bring on board here.
Adam, there's someone out there who doesn't know what a storied credit is. A storied credit, explain it.
Storied credit is a borrower that has had, run-of-the-mill with their business. They're either expanding, they've lost a large vendor or client that might have dipped revenues, or they've had a cost of goods sold have gone up, which have lowered their overall bottom line revenues. There's multiple reasons why a borrower would have a storied credit where a big bank might say that's a little too risky for us. Those are the credits that we.
Well, again, that's always a fine line with SBA. We're in that credit elsewhere test, so we want to make capital available to Main Street, where they cannot get it from traditional lenders. But in your press release, you said we're going to go down to FICO for 600, and I know SBA approved those loans. Should SBA really be that low in the marketplace?
Well, I think they should. I mean, again, if you look at the overall SBA mantra, it's to help small businesses expand and grow and also retain jobs. And so by taking a look at some of the business owners that have been beat up over the recession and other items, there's some factors in there that might have lowered their FICO scores that ultimately have been cleaned up at this point, and they're back on their path to being profitable and being good borrowers.
Well said. Who's your competition in this niche?
Well, the products we're releasing really is the first to the market. We feel like there's no other non-bank SBA lenders really rolling this product out to hold long-term securitize, and we feel like the market is healthy enough to get that done at this point.
Adam Siri, Harvest, Commercial Capital, Small Business Finance. Thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Update and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.